really shifted summer, how that really shifted our understanding or engagement on social issues. And so I think that that was the time where we, utilized social media in a lot more aggressive way. And I think it was at that moment where we were like, what do we do now that we've protested and we've really tried to address or really tried to like make our voices be heard. And what was missing was an institution, an organization is really that is really tailored to addressing some of the modern day issues that Black communities are facing, not only in America, but all across the globe. And so when we looked at the issue of George Floyd, we realized that when you go to South America, people can point out a George Floyd in their community. When you go to Europe, people can find out, can show you a George Floyd in their community. And it even goes all the way onto the continent in South Africa and later on with the NSARS movement in Nigeria. And so the whole purpose and point of it was to really bring people together to understand that um, the issues that we're facing are interconnected. And even though we all live in our respective communities, respective countries, there's still value in understanding one another and learning more about each other's backgrounds and cultures. And so even with this call today, you can see everyone who joined here has a unique perspective that they bring and can share a lot of knowledge that we may not necessarily have just within the community.
About a background.
So yeah. So the reason why we're here today is because we are now at a crossroads, like Nassim said, where we see a lot of issues happening to our country. And we have a president who is really authoritarian and moving towards moving in a direction that is not going to benefit us if we are being honest and truthful about it. And so many people are looking for the answer to some of our problems, but no one really has an answer. And to me, and I think for most of the people here, the answer should be community, leaning more into one another. And so that's why we wanted to call you all here today to talk about NoirUnited, and see how we can be in community together. So I will stop right there and move into the presentation. Okay, so we're gonna have a quick agenda today. I just gave you the NoirUnited overview. We'll go through what our programming is looking like and what our membership will be. And we also have a new website that we launched and that we wanted to share with you first. So I'll pass it to Nassim here.
Okay. So our three focus areas right now are youth and education, research and advocacy, and community resilience. We're going to go through and show you what we've been doing in each of these areas. But essentially, when we first started, we didn't really know which direction we wanted to go into. And many of you all know that we had this big response where we were able to go and support students that were fleeing the war in Ukraine. That was just like we call it a wormhole. We found ourselves in a unique position to actively help and give back to the community that needed help where nobody else was helping them. And from reflecting and going back and doing lessons learned, we realized that as an organization, we would be in a unique position to take up these three focus areas because we feel like this is where our best place energy would be and where we feel we would have the most impact. And so if we want to go to the next slide, Ms. Siri, the first program, Youth and Education, this program is the backbone of what we're trying to build in at NoirUnited. Currently, we're based in DC and building and thinking about what we were able to do in Ukraine. I don't think many of you all like know the sheer impact of the amount of people that we were able to reach and that we engaged with. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of the pictures from the workshops that we did in Europe, but we were able to reach over 1,600 people of African descent that were coming in and out of Ukraine. And this was people from North Africa all the way down to South Africa, from Morocco to Egypt, from Sudan to the Congo, from Cameroon to Zimbabwe and Eswatini. We met people from literally all over the world, and they were the same age as us. And when we engaged and we interacted with them, we realized that they themselves, they thought that for us coming in because we were American, that our life was sweet and everything in America and in the US was so perfect and it was all nice, and everything was sweet, basically. That's what they thought. And so because they themselves experienced deep racial discrimination and had a lot of mental trauma, we continued to work with them, and we showed them not only as us being in America that we were able to, face the discrimination and face all of the challenges that Black people have here, but that they too can do it too. And so because they were students and were the youth, we realized that even in the spaces that we're in, when we would go to these meetings, we're able to go to meetings with people like Dangote. Well, Dangote is one of the richest Black men on the planet. We go to meetings with people like Michael Bloomberg, all the names that you see on TV. And the first thing that they start talking about is the African youth population. Even when I was at school, even when I was at school, they talk about the African youth population. And so all of that to say, the white man's eyes and gaze are continue to be on Africa and continue to be on the youth. And for us, we are considered the youth. All of us are under the age of, let's say, 35. And so we know by the year of 2050 that the youth population will overtake and be the total population of the whole planet. I don't know if y'all know this also, but currently 58% of the total Black population here in America is the youth. It's the millennials, it's the Gen Z, and the people that's under the age of 6. So that just goes to show the sheer power that the youth have and will have as we continue to move forward throughout time. And so, and looking at our youth and education programming, what we started doing here in DC, we've engaged all of the universities around DC. We reached out to all of the professors and student groups that are here in DC in order to start doing our programming and talking to the students that are there. We had our first event last year in December at American University. We partnered with the African Student Association, and it was a small but nice and detail-oriented event. We were able to bring in African food. We were able to have T-shirts for them. And then at the end, we played a game with them. It was a Jubilee style game. And we asked them different questions about what they thought about the current state of being an African, current state of being Black, current state of the continent. All of these questions, which are really important to really see where we are as a people, because we can't really understand where we're going if we don't know where people are currently. And so that's our student engagement overview. Building on that, another thing we wanted to tell you all about, many of you on the call, we've known since high school. And so our student ambassadors program, which we're calling the NoirUnited Gap program, is going to be a model of our new initiative. Essentially, we're thinking about this as somewhat of an experiment on how to influence youth at a young age in order to get them onto a certain wave so that they can begin to operate in a space that's going to be the best place position for our people in the future. And so we've already began conversations with the school. We talked to the principal and different teachers there, and we'll be able to share more information as the program comes together. But all of that to say, at the end of the program, we're looking to take some students to the continent of Africa. Masiri and I went to Tanzania earlier this year, and we're looking to take the students back to Tanzania. And so we're going to give you more information about the membership, but the membership also presents opportunities to come with us on the trips that we have planned, doing the work that we're currently doing. You can go next. And I'll pass it to you, Masiri.
All right. So the next thing that we have is research and advocacy. And this has been something that's been at the core of the work that we've been doing at NoirUnited. We started off with doing advocacy work. As you can see, we have this picture here from 2020 at the protest downtown in Atlanta. And so now we're looking to take things to the next level. In addition to advocating, in the streets and on social media, we want to make sure that we're engaging public officials, members of Congress who actually are passing or, introducing legislation. So for example, um, right now there's a lot of movement on how we can engage more diasporans, more African Americans, Caribbeans, African immigrants on influencing policy towards Africa. So, what kind of policy is Trump going to be taking towards the African continent? Is he going to be, um, you know, is he going to be supportive of humanitarian assistance towards the war in Sudan or in the Congo? If not, how are we using our voice to amplify that that's something that's important to the African diaspora and African people? We know that now with Donald Trump being in office, he's going to be a more transactional president, right? He's not going to be looking towards helping people, but looking to see what he can gain from certain situations or from certain dynamics and partnerships. And so a lot of discussion right now in DC is how how we can influence policy that impacts investments on the continent, that impacts trade with the continent, and that engages um, businesses here to also benefit from the continent. So Nassim mentioned before that by 2050, the African population will reach 2.5 billion people. And I believe it's about 70% of that population will be the youth. And so what does that mean for businesses, and what does that mean for those who are looking to, start and increase their investment opportunities there? A lot of people are moving towards the continent. A lot of corporations are moving operations towards the continent in order to benefit from the labor that's going to come from this population growth. And so, how do we make sure that we're playing a role in shaping those kind of policies so that they're not predatory, so that they're not taking advantage of African people on the continent, and so that there's also going to be a greater cohesion between diaspora communities. And so how do we ensure that everyone on this call feels connected to or understands their connection to an issue like the Congo? Um, Sometimes you might hear that and you might be like, well, what can I do? How can I impact that? Um, you know, what does that have to do with me? But we all know that, and maybe if you don't know that, even the devices that you use, the minerals that they use to create your iPhone come from the Congo. And so how do you take that information and do what you can do to support the people who are being impacted by the technology that's being created that we all benefit from? So that's just different ways that we plan to engage. We plan to write letters to Congress members, to organize meetings, maybe even bring people to DC to come and have actual private discussions with Congress members who care about diaspora issues. And not only is that going to be looking at towards the continent, but it's looking at issues that are impacting Black people here in the United States. And so NoirUnited is looking to build a coalition of people who can advocate for that as well too. And then lastly, we also have this Voices of Survival video series, and we'll show you that where you can watch it on the website as well. Back to you, Nassim.
Okay. So another major component of our work that we mentioned already, and that's going to continue to be a part of what we looking to do moving in the future, is our community resilience work. And the first program that we have that we started last year is the Guinea Water Initiative, where there's this community in right outside of Conakry, and they had a water well that was contaminated. And so right now we're working with the Guinean community that's based in Atlanta, Georgia, to fundraise money in order to support building the well in that community. And then the second project is our Ghana School project. My mom, she just went to Ghana earlier this year, and she was able to go to this school which is in a city called Nima Mamobi. And it's right like 5 minutes from the major airport in Ghana. It's in the middle of Accra. And this community is a community that obviously needs some support and help. But we're focusing on this school because we think that, like we already talked about youth and education, we think that by focusing on the students, that will be able to impact them and impact the overall community in the long run. And so later this year, we're actually planning to go to both Guinea and Ghana in order to see the implementation of these projects. We already have some photos of the implementation of the Ghana project. If you look closely, you can see the cement bags that we were able to purchase in order to start building the flooring. And we also started building up new walls in other areas of the school as well, too. And so how do we connect all of this to everything that we've mentioned so far? What we've been doing with our student engagement here in DC is using the tools and lessons that we've been able to do, such as our first GoFundMe fundraiser, where we were able to raise $6,000+ in order to support Black businesses just by posting on our social media pages. We're using that same methodology in order to work with these students that are at the universities in order to raise funds to support two of these projects. And after that, like I said, we're going to be going to visit these sites later this year in December. We can go to the next slide. Okay. So this is just a brief overview of the membership benefits. We've already shared mostly everything, but the main point that we want to drive home to you is that this year we have a series of events that are lined up, directly targeted and made for people like you and people like us. And these events will allow us to not only become more educated and aware of our surroundings and things that are happening within our country, but this will also enable us as a community to connect with different opportunities on the continent as a whole. And all of these different things will be included in our NoirUnited membership. Okay, and so as a part of that, we'll also have a community. So as we continue to engage with more people, we'll be adding them into the community. And so this will just expand our reach and expand what will be possible and what we can actually do. And then after that, we also have volunteer opportunities. Many of you all have reached out to us before asking for letters to be signed. I know some people, might be on probation one day, might need a recommendation letter or a volunteer signing letter, or you're trying to go somewhere and need volunteer hours. So we're also able to provide that as well to our members. And then lastly, for people who are interested in job opportunities, internship opportunities. We have like I can't even begin to go down all of the connections that we've been able to build over the last 3-4 years. But we have opportunities available to people who, for example, might want to go to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia and go work at the African Union for 2 or 3 months in order to learn what the African Union is doing to support Black people over there. And so that's just the run of the benefits that we have. Ms. Sari, if you want to go to the next slide, and we only allocated an hour for this time, so we're gonna go through the slides and then all the additional information that we have, we'll just be able to share, but we want y'all to be able to see this information. So this is a run up of our events for the year. We talked about our first event series, which is going to be the NoirUnited Voices of the Diaspora Speaker Series. We have our first one, which is going to be coming up on February the 28th, the last day of Black History Month at 6:30. And this event is going to be featuring Melvin Foote. Mel Foote is the president of the Constituency for Africa. This guy is like probably one of the craziest, oldest Black men I've ever met. When you walk into the room and we're in the meeting with all of these white people, he's not afraid to speak his mind. He says exactly what he thinks, and it's always on par with what's best for Black people and what's best for our community, whether it rubs the people wrong or not. And so you'll be able to see Melvin and actually ask him some questions What we can do, or what you should do, is just Google him. You can look him up, find him. There's so many articles about him. But we really want you all to see this as an opportunity to connect with the elders, people that have had and worked in this space, that have a lot of knowledge that can be easily transferred if we just have an opportunity to listen to them. So we're gonna be doing the Voices of Diaspora speaker series once a month, and we'll have more coming out to let you know. And then we also have our advocacy workshops. Nasiri already mentioned some of our advocacy points. So we're looking at the Congo and looking at Sudan. This is probably one of the biggest humanitarian issues or things that you can possibly think about in today's age. I know a lot of times we see stuff on social media about like Gaza and Palestine and things like that, which is really important to uplift. But we have to remember that that's what the media wants us to see. The media is always pushing us in a certain direction so that we're not thinking about what's actually happening in other areas. Both of these areas, both Sudan and the Congo, are one of the worst humanitarian crises on the planet, and it impacts people who look just like us. When we went to Tanzania and I was walking around, before I opened my mouth, the Tanzanians said that they thought that I was Tanzanian. So this really goes back to say that this is impacting people who look like us, and because we're not connected with it here in the country, we're not able to see it all of the time. But the moment we leave the country, we belong to the African diasporic community. And so we have to remember that, and we have to remember to stand in solidarity, and in order to engage with the people and see how we can have some type of impact. And then lastly, we already said the Capitol Hill and embassy engagement. We're looking to create opportunities to do both, bringing people to Capitol Hill to talk to Congress members. And we're also building relationships with different embassies in order to build relationships, both business, cultural, and tribal relationships with different African embassies as well. And I'll take a pause there.
So right now, the way that we operate as an organization is that we have about 15 volunteers, and we meet biweekly with these volunteers, and some are on the call now. We are organized based on teams, and so we have a policy and advocacy team, a communication team, and programs team. And through their help and coordination, that's how we're going to make sure that you all have the messaging and you have the information that you need to engage on some of these projects and programs that Nasim just shared and described. And so in addition to that, if there's anything that you feel like is important and you feel like should be represented, or that Noir United should include in its programming and that it should be represented there, feel free to share your ideas and your thoughts and your feedback. The number one thing that we always like to share is that Noir United is a very community-based organization. And so that means that we are taking back feedback and information from those who are part of the community to inform the work that we're doing. And so that's what I wanted to share. And I think I want to maybe take a moment to maybe share or pass to Maya or Corey, or maybe both of you if you wanted to maybe share anything that you that may come to mind about the work that we've been doing for the past couple of months, years maybe.
Maya had to hop, but Corey should still be there.
Hey, yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I think that y'all did a amazing job and beautiful job kind of covering the basis of like the work that we've done and kind of the work that Noir United is aspiring to do. I think that me personally, I say this all the time, but I'm just super grateful for y'all and super grateful for just y'all's dedication and commitment to empowering and uplifting Black people across the diaspora. Um, and I'm looking forward to, for folks who don't know, I'm like involved in NoirUnited, and the work that I specifically focus on is like mental health and kind of community wellness. And so in the past, we have done some kind of like community facing programming geared towards mental health, and also like more like call to actions and kind of mobilizing like stakeholders and things of that nature. So and also doing like research and stuff. So I'm essentially just looking forward to, and sorry if y'all hear the sirens in the background. Um, but I'm just looking forward to continuing to like strengthen and like evolve in like the kind of like um, the strategizing around like mobilizing. And I think that y'all have done like again just a wonderful job of like taking the past, like the things that we've done and kind of learning from it and implementing it in a way that is very cohesive and concise and intentional and thoughtful. And so, um, yeah, I'm just looking forward to, continuing to support y'all and bear witness. And yeah.
Thank you, Corey. Corey's been working with us since 2022 when the Ukraine war broke out. And so she's been a very vital team member. And yeah, Corey, we appreciate you as well too. So thanks for sharing. Um, and yeah, and then lastly, this is our new website. If you guys open your phones, you can go to NoirUnited.org. And you'll see our new website that we launched. We spent the past couple of months working on this, and yeah, I feel like it captures the work that we've been doing. It captures where we are today from 5 years ago, and it shows where we're looking to go. And so you'll see access to our membership. You can go to our Take Action page where you'll see the campaigns, how you can attend an event, how you can partner with us, how you can support our work. And yeah, there you go, attending the events. So for the events that Nassim mentioned, like the first one, the Noir United Speaker Series, that is going to be found here on this page. And we'll have a calendar where we'll update them. And yeah, here's our What We Do page. This is where you'll see the 3 focus areas. And yeah, we'll let you keep looking. But we're gonna pause there and we'll just open it up for any questions, any comments, any thoughts you'd like to share. Um, yeah.
Hey guys, it's Nyla. Um, it's always great hearing you guys talk about Noir United. You guys do a lot for the community. I did have a question. Is the membership like a yearly fee, or is it just to like sign up and join? What should people who are interested in um, getting that membership be doing?
Thank you for asking. So for us starting off, the membership is free. And what we are still working on developing a system, because in the future we do plan to create somewhat of a tiered system for the membership structure. But right now the membership is free, and we have a sign up link that we can send to all of you all to go ahead and sign up for that.
So I do have a question. So um, let's say we go through the sign in link, we sign up for the membership, and we join the organization. Will we then be showing up to those bi-weekly meetings that you said you have with the volunteers, and then continuously being part of the process with Nor United, or would it be more of like a call upon us when you need us type situation?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be more of a call upon you as we need you. Well, more of the latter. So you won't have to join the biweekly meetings. That's just for people who are interested and available to join biweekly and want to become a part of the actual team. But as far as members goes, there's no real requirement for you to do any work, so don't worry about that. But what we are really asking of you all is to support our work, to share our stuff on social media, to join the events that we have, because a lot of this is based on reach and how many people you can reach, how many people you can engage, share the work that we're doing with other people. If you know that we're having an event, please pass on the link to someone else who might be interested or who you might feel like can learn something. If there's a program, like for example, with the community resilience programs that we're doing in Ghana and in Guinea, right? One of the things that Nassim mentioned is that we're collaborating with university students to create a framework around diaspora funded community programs. And if you are at a university and you have an African diaspora group at your school or Black Student Union at your school that you feel like would be interested in supporting a program like ours, feel free to connect us with them. If there's a speaker, if there's someone important in the community that you feel like would have a lot of valuable advice to give or to share, um, feel free to connect us with them as well too, so we can also platform them and be able to share some of the knowledge that they have too. And so I think, we want to be able to be a resource, and we want our members to also be a resource too. And we want you all to be able to meet one another and get to know one another. And so the ways in which that we'll engage, we'll have meetings like this specifically for community members. It may be monthly, but I think we might start it off from a quarterly point of view, but we'll give you more information on that as we move ahead.
Hmm. And one thing that I want to emphasize to you all is, just so you can see the vision that we're working with from here, is in this year, we're really focusing on not only educating ourselves, but trying to educate the community as a whole too. Because we don't think that we have all the answers. We went to school, we graduated, but that doesn't mean that we're the super geniuses that can to take everybody through. And so, in order to find the answers that we actively need to be working on, it's important for us to educate ourselves. And so, if you can think of this year, 2025, as the year of education, the year of empowerment, the year of enlightenment, that's what we're trying to establish, so that when we move into next year, we don't start the year off the same way we started off 2025, whereas there's no community, there's no growth, there's no movement. 2026, we should be at the point where everybody is able to operate from a standing point of knowledge, of resource sharing, and then of also having that community too, where we can actively be working on different things together as well.
So I got two more questions. So to follow up on the first question, just to clarify, you guys are saying that as far as involvement, being super involved, like in the biweekly meetings and being available for everything isn't a requirement, but it is an option if we do want to volunteer more. That's what you guys are saying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you would like to volunteer, we can open up that option for you as well. But in our initial thinking of the membership, it was to make it as easy as possible for people to engage. And so that's why we're focusing on creating the programs. So not only will you be able to join the programs, but we're also going to be having other people that we meet as we continue to go to different schools and reach out to different individuals. They'll be able to join those programs too.
That makes sense. And then my second question is, there are a couple of people that I do have in mind that I think would be a great fit for this.
Mhm.
Is there a link or something of that sort that I can share with those people if I think this would be something that they would be interested in, and I wanted to bring them into the community?
Yeah, I'll drop them in the chat for you.
All right, thanks.
And so, like we also shared, we have been working on this website for the last couple of months. And so the website is just about done. The last thing that's missing is people like you all to go on the website and actually use it and let us know what's working, what's not working, what looks good. Because if not, we don't want somebody else to go and see it and, the button doesn't work when they try to go click shit. So also open to that as well, too, if you see anything.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Feel free to use this as a space to share anything that could be on your mind. I'm gonna stop sharing my
Hi,
screen
this is
now.
really quick. I'm sorry if you guys already said this, but will you guys be sharing the membership like link and stuff to us through email after the Zoom call, or how does it work?
Yeah, we'll send it to you via email.
Okay, thank you.
We'll also share the slides that we put together too. So for those who don't know, I'm gonna just pass it to my sister real quick because I can see that she's there. Naima, if you want to just go ahead and say something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Naima Nasim's sister. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia as well. So I actually got an idea as Nasim was talking when he mentioned the point of Nowhere United being able to offer services for people who need community service hours.
Mhm.
So let me go to my notes real quick. I think that it would be really interesting if you guys were able to implement some programs at youth detention centers and allowing the youth that are in the system to work with you guys and to do some of the groundwork that you guys can't do because you're not always in Atlanta. And that could just mean like handing out flyers, putting things up around the city, posting things on social media. Like all of those things could kind of count as
Mhm.
community service hours because it is helping the organization. But then also taking it a step further and maybe volunteering your time, giving lectures and helping educate them on bridging the gap between the African diaspora and African Americans. And I think if you're able to get them at a young age, especially the ones that are kind of at risk of going down the wrong path, that could be a meaningful change in their life, and they could probably learn a lot on why they should focus on being the best version of themselves.
Mm. Yeah, I think that that's a really good idea. Um, we can talk about that more, but I think that that's a good idea that we can explore.
And also on the membership link that we'll send, there'll be a section at the bottom where you can share like suggestions, ideas that you may have as well too. But okay, so we're not going to hold you any longer. Just want to say thank you all for joining and for listening to our presentation. You all are going to be our first Noir United members, which is why we called you all here today. And so we'll send you some follow-up information over the next couple of days. And yeah, please engage, please support, and let's all be in community with one another.
I have one last question.
Right.
What's the starting goal for how many members you guys are hoping to get? And then after that number, will you guys host like an event where members can get a chance to get to know each other and meet in person? Um, and do you guys have plans for that?
We do. Pass to you, Miss Ari.
Yeah, so I think one thing that we want to do, we know that we want to do an event to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of Noir United. And so that's something that we can do in person probably this summer. That'll get people to come together. And following that, we'll continue to do more community-focused events that are in alignment with the key priorities, the community resilience, the youth and education, and research and advocacy focus areas. And one thing that we've talked about is bringing our Noir United in Europe events to the United States. And so that was literally just us bringing African or, different cultural foods together, getting people to talk and get to know one another, but then also having a moment where we're actually strategizing, talking about important issues, and seeing how we can find a way forward. And so as we build our capacity, we'll work to bring together more programming like that as well too. But yeah, so thanks for asking that question.
And to answer your second part of your question, as far as our goal for membership, essentially what we're looking to do is structure our mindset around what has worked and what has been successful. And because we're in DC, we had the opportunity to really study these organizations, both from the inside and on the outside, from both of our different jobs and positions, and just talking and meeting with different people. And one thing that we seen to has that's worked is when it comes to like movement building and when it comes to actually implementing and seeing the results from the work that of which that's being done is the movement that's been done with the climate movement. And I'm sure 100% that many of you all don't know the far extreme extents of the climate movement, but I'll just give you like a brief little whatever you need to know. In 2019, 2018, these young white people came together and they banded together and they were able to not only influence the way that the politicians were speaking, but they were also able to raise a lot of capital and change and shift the way that our entire country was operating when it came to climate, when it came to uh, financing public infrastructure. A lot of the infrastructure projects that have been done, not only in the capital and around the country, but also in the state of Georgia. For those of y'all on the east side, we have a highway that's being built right off of Wesley Chapel. That highway is being built off of funding from the IRA dollars that the climate people put up and basically force President Biden to put up all of this money for climate. Whereas for us, where climate might impact us, we're not thinking about climate every day. But because we don't actively have the structures where we're able to go and berate and harangue these people every day, a lot of the stuff that concerns us is not really going to be brought up, or it's not really going to have as much of an impact. So what we're looking to do is to pull from what we see other people doing that's working and build up our own infrastructure. So I'm not going to say, oh, the goal is 50 people because the 50 people is too small. The goal is 1,000 plus, because at that point, like I already said before, the youth is our main focus area at this moment. And we know that the youth is going to continue to grow as a population. And so we want to be able to utilize that population in the work that we're doing.
Um, Thank you for that. Just real quick on the membership form, I was just looking at it as you guys were speaking. At the very end, when it's time to submit, there isn't a submit option. It says get link. It'll just like take you back to the beginning of the form. So just a little tip for correction.
Thank you for that. I will fix that as right away. Okay, cool. So if we don't have any other questions or comments at this time, we're going to go ahead and close out. But if anything comes up in the meantime, you can always reach out to us and we can get back to you.
When will the next Zoom call be?
So right now we're looking at hosting monthly meetings. And so the next Zoom call would be in the month of March. But we
Okay.
do have other events that are going to be taking place between now and the next membership Zoom call. I'll give you the information, but
Um,
we got our first an event that's coming up at the end of the month, and the other events we'll send it in the email to you.
do members get exclusive updates as far as like what Nowhere United may have going on? Like, let's say you guys have an event in Washington D.C. Will we get that event via email? And so if certain people can make it, and
Yeah. So we are looking to also provide exclusive access to some of the events that we're able to attend. I can give you off the bat, we know 2 events later this year in September. We typically go to the UN General Assembly meeting, which is in New York. And maybe not the meeting itself, but side events that are there. And we also plan to be involved in the Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative meeting, which happens in September too, around the same time in DC. So that kind of can give you an example.
That's it for my questions.
Cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close out. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We're going to be following up with you via email with some more information.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
You.